Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what I perceive at least is a shift in tactical direction by the deep state and how they're trying to isolate Trump. And they've looked at the various options they have for 2024, and they've decided that really the best option they've got is still to rig the election. They got away with it in 2020. They nearly got away with it in 2016. But the best out of all the options they've got, and they've looked at it, and I think they've gone through it and say, look, with the lawfare thing, Trump can get to the Supreme Court with all the stuff which says he's going to win there, or at least he'll neutralise whatever we've done to him. So lawfare isn't going to win. It's harassing him. It's giving him, but in reality, that lawfare, it's kind of not going to work out for us in neutralising Trump. We've tried to separate him from his assets and his income and harass him there, but again, he can bump that up to the Supreme Court and appeal it. He's got the resources to do that. So that's not really a long-term that's not really going to achieve anything for us, or it's not going to give us the decisive victory we need. So the globalists would perceive. There are more radical options, such as the Dallas grassy knoll option, but that's radical. That is radical, and also it's a really bad look. And it knows, it says that, look, we're the guilty guys. We can't win, honestly and fairly. So we got to get a hitman to take the. That's not a good look. So they're looking at all their options, and they're convinced, look, we own pretty much the entire media establishment. We own all the institutions, and yet still we can't win. And if they'd been any doubt about that, they would have looked at, and I'm sure it got looked at, was that referendum in Australia where, again, it was a globalist race hustle thing where they wanted to instill permanent race hustling in the Australian Constitution. And there was a referendum. And in spite of every establishment, every state government, local government, federal government, the universities, the entire media landscape, the think tanks, all the big multinational firms, in spite of everybody being for it, all those institutions just screaming, vote for race hustling. And if you don't, you're a Nazi. In spite of all that, the people overwhelmingly voted against it, in spite of the massive resources that were put in place to try and get it over the line. It still got beat. Now that shows that really the entire globalist project, which is an ideological project being imposed without the consent of the people, the entire globalist project is never going to get up. If the people have a say in either a vote, like a referendum, or they have a say via a candidate who is non-globalist, the people will vote against the globalist initiative. They will vote for any anti-globalist candidate. So if the globalists are unsure about that at all, then they're now absolutely convinced of it. A free and fair election cannot be allowed. And if they can't neutralise Trump, and it's looking less and less likely they can do that, then they have to rig the election. But how to go about it? The last election was rigged, and 50% of the American population believed the election was rigged. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But so what's their tactics now? Well, all the supporters around, everyone around Trump who was saying the election was rigged or fixed or deeply suspicious, all these people, whether it be Mark Meadows, whether it be the lawyers, Sidney Powell, all these people, they're trying to isolate Trump from all these people. So everybody who said that the election was rigged or extremely suspect, they're making those people, they're forcing those people to say, no, the election was fair. It was fair. No, that was a good election. Trump was lying. Trump knew all the time. We all knew. Biden is just an incredible candidate. He is a fucking incredible, this decrepit old man who can't put a sentence together, who didn't even campaign. He is the most popular president in fucking history. And you better believe it. And anyone says otherwise is a fucking Nazi. So in spite of the utter implausibility of Biden winning that election and winning it with a historical record, in spite of that utter implausibility, they're trying to isolate Trump from all the people that said it was rigged or said it was fixed or said it was suspect. So in the end, the only person who's saying it was suspect is Trump himself. So once they've got him isolated and he's the only person saying it, then when they rig the next election, which it must be their intention now because the other options are exhausted or very unlikely to succeed in the manner they want them to. So election rigging is the only other thing they can do. So when they rig the next election, Trump says, look how they've rigged the election. Oh, look at the idiot. Look at it. 100 people said that even Trump's closest supporters said the election was fair and that Biden is a fucking excellent candidate. And that's why Biden won, because he's a fucking brilliant candidate. Now, that's really the direction they're going. And I think that's now their only option, given they've run the other options. None of it's really working out or not biting in the way they thought it would. They thought they could destroy Trump's cred by the lawfare stuff, but that's not working, or certainly not working to any level that they thought it might or could. So the only thing left for them to do is to rig the election, but to do that, they must isolate Trump from all the people that supported him in his claim that the election was rigged. Now, let's come back to the election rigging. I think Obama was the most popular president in history because of the massive turnout of college kids. And I think he got something like 67, I have got the numbers in front of me, but it's on or about 67, 68 million, somewhere around that. This is on his first election outing as president. And he was a very active campaigner. He was all over the place. He's quite a good speaker. I mean, he talked nonsense and talked rubbish and talked in such vague terms that he could have been saying anything. But nonetheless, he was, he'd obviously had a lot of training to be able to speak the way he did. And in the manner that he did, where he gazed off into the distance and just spouted these talking points. But he was good at it. So I was surprised that he won the election by such a margin. But the candidate standing against him was very weak, very weak. I wouldn't have put that guy up as a presidential candidate, the Republican guy. I think it was McCain, wasn't it? So Obama won by quite a substantial margin, which was hardly unexpected given the quality of the Republican candidate. Now, Biden got 81 million votes, 81 million, so 12 plus million votes more than Obama. Now, the likelihood of that happening in the real world is about zip. Now, Trump got 63 or so million in his first outing as president, and then he got about 73 million votes in the second outing. So it's clear that the globalists made the decision not to tamper with Trump's votes, but to tamper with Biden's votes to make sure he got across the line. So they really wanted to look at, well, how many votes is Trump going to get here? How many votes do we need to invent? And they couldn't do it by a handful of votes. They wanted a sizable margin. So in my estimation, they manufactured something in the region of 20 million votes. Now, whether this was done through very questionable vote harvesting or just inventing votes or getting them done out the back or magical mail-in ballots that were actually never mailed out. And it doesn't matter how they did it, but 20 million votes were made to appear, approximately, in my opinion, to give Biden the 81 million. Now, the idea that Biden could have beaten Obama by 12 plus million votes is itself insane. It's insane. A doddering old man that can barely put a sentence together who didn't even campaign. Obama campaigned, very, very vigorously. And again, it was quite a good speaker, out in front of the crowds and so on. Biden was a fucking useless speaker. So, and the few times that he went out to supposedly campaign was just in a car park full of hack journalists who were on the deep state payroll anyway. So there's just no way Biden got 81 million votes. Now, Trump actually improved the votes from his first time by something like 10 million or so more votes than he got the first time around. So clearly Trump was a popular president. There's no questioning of that. So if Trump's votes had fallen, that is, instead of 63, he'd got like 60 or 55 or something, like less, then you'd say, okay, well, the other candidate was favoured, or Trump wasn't favoured, or Trump wasn't the popular president, but he was. So we're talking about a popular president being beaten handsomely by a guy who couldn't string a sentence together and who didn't campaign. Now, just the plausibility of that alone, just that alone, before you even look at was there any skullduggery that may or may not have gone, just that alone would say, hey, we really need to look at this. We need to do some serious forensic auditing of the votes and where they came from and so on. So I don't think there's any doubt about that they rigged it. Now, so many people believe the election was rigged, or at least was very suspicious, and that there was inadequate auditing of the votes and the vote counting processes and that sort of thing. So what the deep state now, or the globalists, are trying to do now is say, okay, well, we have to remove that doubt about the previous election, because the only way we're going to stop Trump is by rigging the next election. So we have to clear the decks. We have to clear the decks and remove all the doubt about the previous election, or what we think. We're going to go through these motions, and we're going to make sure that all Trump's allies are all neutralized, and that will isolate Trump. So that when we rig the next election, and Trump says, look, it's rigged, then we can go, look at that phony, look how you complained about last time, he's just a sore loser. So that's clearly what, in my view, that's clearly the path they're going to go down. And already they've ordained the future as to what they're going to rig and fix and set up and so on, which indeed the entire globalist project is a massive rigging and imposing of an ideological form of government, and there's nothing going to be allowed to interrupt it or get in the way. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.